let's talk about ectogenesis. It's the idea of growing a human baby completely outside of a woman's body, in a machine. Now, for decades, this has been pure science fiction, right? The stuff of movies. But what if I told you it's not fiction anymore? It is actively moving from a wild idea into a clinical reality. We're going to explore how this technology is literally on the verge of changing everything we thought we knew about birth, and maybe even what it means to be human. So, chances are you've seen an image like this floating around the internet. You know the one. Endless rows of glowing pods, each one growing a baby, like some kind of human production line. It is a straight-up dystopian nightmare. But the real question is this actually where we're heading? Well, the answer is kinda yes, and kinda no. That factory, it doesn't exist. But the core science behind it, the artificial womb technology, that isn't just a theory anymore. It is real. It's being tested in labs right now. And believe it or not, human trials are already being discussed. The leap from a medical miracle to a full-blown societal revolution might be way shorter than any of us think. Okay, so to really get what's going on, we have to pull these two things apart. We need to separate the crazy viral concept from the actual science that's happening in labs today. What's real and what's just a thought experiment, for now. So that vision, the human factory farm, it comes from a conceptual video called Ectolife. It went totally viral. It was created by a science communicator, Hashim Al-Ghalili, and it shows this massive facility that can supposedly grow 30,000 babies a year, each one in its own little transparent, climate-controlled pod. But here's where it gets really wild. The main promise of Ectolife isn't just about gestation. Oh no, it's about customization. They proposed something called an elite package, where parents could use CRISPR gene editing to basically design their baby from a menu, picking eye color, height, intelligence, all while getting rid of any inherited diseases. And yeah, as you can probably guess, people freaked out. The reaction online was intense. Commenters called it insanely scary, truly alarming, and a lot of people made the comparison to a modern-day Matrix. It just hits a nerve, tapping into our deepest fears about technology running wild. So let's be absolutely clear. Ectolife is not a real company. It's not a real place. It's been called a fanciful thought experiment. The actual science of artificial wombs has a much more immediate, and frankly, a much more noble goal, giving the tiniest, most vulnerable premature babies a real fighting chance at life. So let's look at the real science, what's happening today. Forget the giant factories. The reality is a device that scientists are calling the biobag. And its purpose isn't to replace pregnancy, but to extend it for babies who are born way, way too soon. The proper term for this is partial ectogenesis, and you can think of it as a super high-tech upgrade to the neonatal intensive care unit, the NICU. The biobag is basically a sealed, sterile bag filled with a lab-made amniotic fluid. It lets a preemie's tiny, underdeveloped organs keep maturing, just as if they were still safe inside the womb. And this table right here illustrates perfectly why this is such a potential game changer. Look, for what they call a micropreemie, a baby born between 22 and 24 weeks, a traditional NICU has to force air into their tiny, unready lungs with a ventilator. The odds of surviving that without major lifelong complications are less than 50%. But the biobag completely avoids that trauma. It keeps the lungs filled with fluid, letting them develop naturally. The goal? To dramatically improve those odds. And the scale of this problem is just staggering. We're not talking about a niche issue. According to the World Health Organization, 15 million babies are born prematurely every single year. 1 million of them don't make it. This is a global health crisis, and this is the crisis this technology was born to solve. But, and this is the big but, here's the unavoidable truth. While the biobag could be a miracle for preemies, it's also the direct mechanical proof of concept for a future where the human womb could become, well, obsolete. The bridge from helping premature babies to full ectogenesis is being built as we speak. And look, this technology didn't just appear out of thin air. The idea was first floated a whole century ago, back in 1924. But check out the acceleration. In 2017, researchers successfully grew premature lambs in a biobag. Just last year, the FDA started talking about human trials. Projections are suggesting that by 2040, this could just be standard procedure in hospitals. The pace is picking up fast. So what happens when this technology is perfected? What happens when it moves beyond being a critical medical treatment and becomes an elective lifestyle choice?
This is where things get really interesting, because we're crossing into a future that could totally redefine what it even means to have a child. And the debate is really split down the middle. On one side, you have people who see this as total liberation. It's a safer option for high-risk pregnancies, a powerful new tool against infertility, and it could free women from the very real physical and professional burdens of pregnancy. But on the other side, critics are sounding the alarm. They warn it could pathologize pregnancy, making natural birth seem like a risky, irresponsible choice, and possibly weakening the deep biological bond between parent and child. And this leads to a really serious ethical worry. The idea of gestational stratification. Think about it, a new kind of social divide, a two-tier system, where being born from a machine is seen as the modern, superior, controlled option for the wealthy, while natural pregnancy gets devalued, seen as something for those who can't afford the tech. But an external womb doesn't just change how we're born. It completely changes what we can do while a baby is developing. It essentially becomes the perfect platform for the most controversial technology of them all, genetic editing. I mean, just think about it for a second. In a natural pregnancy, the fetus is shielded, protected inside the mother's body. But inside an artificial womb, the fetus is accessible, constantly. That pod basically turns into a 40-week biomedical laboratory, opening the door for a level of monitoring and intervention that is simply impossible today. And all of a sudden, that elite package from the viral video, it doesn't seem so crazy anymore, does it? You combine a fully functional artificial womb with CRISPR gene editing, and the whole idea of a designer baby menu becomes a very plausible, if still distant, reality. But playing God comes with huge risks. Scientists are really worried about things like mosaicism. That's where a gene edit only takes in some cells, not all of them, creating a patchwork human. Then there are off-target effects, where CRISPR could accidentally snip the wrong part of the DNA, with disastrous consequences. And the biggest one of all, germline modification. That's where the changes you make are passed down to all future generations, forever, permanently altering the human species. No pressure.
And all of these technological and ethical questions, they lead us to the darkest, most terrifying shadow that this technology casts. What happens when reproduction is no longer a private act and the government gets involved?
This is the ultimate question, isn't it? If a fetus can grow and develop inside a machine, who owns it? Who's responsible for it? When you move gestation from a private body to a public piece of technology, all the rules about parental rights and legal responsibility get thrown into chaos. Who is in control? And you can see a plausible and pretty chilling pathway for how this could unfold. Step 1, a fetus is legally defined as a person with its own rights. Step 2, a woman tries to end a pregnancy. Step 3, instead of allowing an abortion, the state mandates something called compelled extrauterine gestation. The fetus is then transferred to a state-owned artificial womb facility. And in the final step, the state, not the biological parents, becomes the legal guardian. Reproduction would effectively be nationalized. And really, that's the final question we're left with. As we stand on the brink of this brave new world, this pod reality, we have to ask ourselves, is the womb the final frontier of human privacy and individual freedom? Or is it just the next biological asset waiting to be industrialized, optimized, and controlled?